Does the world really need another Tarantino movie ranking? I think it does. Sure, there's been a lot of lists that discuss his movies as a whole, but what about the characters individually? There are few, if any, film creators who have invented so many memorable characters. At least 99 by my count, which is why I spent 2 months working on this. 99 little drawings of Quentin Tarantino's most memorable movie characters. I drew each one by hand and then carved it out with a knife to create this relief print. But this isn't an art lesson. This is a movie character ranking. So let's get to it. Number 99, Roman Polanski. Since the whole story of Once Upon a Time is based on an alternative history of the Manson family murders, and he was Sharon Tate's husband, he should have been a more prominent character. But he wasn't. Sheer disappointment in a missed opportunity is the main reason he's at the bottom of this list. He did get to cruise around in the canyons while listening to Hush by Deep Purple. That was pretty cool. Number 98, Shanna Banana, one of the girls at the bar in Death Proof. It's okay if you forgot, she was the sweetest, but least memorable of the group. Spoiler alert, she gets launched out of a car, courtesy of Kurt Russell. Number 97, Jay Sebring. I know it's going to seem like I'm beating up on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but there's just way too many characters for them all to have a lot of development. And even though this is a pretty comprehensive list, I still left a lot of them out. I don't even rank fake Steve McQueen. He'll always be major winners from Band of Brothers to me anyway. Jay Sebring. Well, at least he was the reason Leo finally got into Margot Robbie's house. Number 96, Mark Dargis. The first time I watched Jackie Brown, I thought it was Tarantino's worst film. Then I watched it a decade later and liked it much better. Maybe it's maturity, but the one thing that doesn't change with age is I still don't care about Mark Dargis. Number 95, Pam. I almost just called that character Rose McGowan, because no one remembers what her character's name is anyway. They just go, hey, isn't that Rose McGowan? Anyway, she also gets her head smashed in by Kurt Russell in his death-proof car, so that's about it. Number 94, O.B., better known as the wagon driver in The Hateful Eight. As they say in acting, there are no small parts, only small actors. Well, I disagree. James Parks acted his heart out. It just wasn't that big of a part. Number 93, Mr. Blue. Even though Eddie Bunker only had 2 lines before he was killed off screen in Reservoir Dogs.
Hey, this girl was nice.
She was okay. She wasn't anything special.
What's special? Take you in the back and suck your dick?
He's still Mr. Blue, which makes him more memorable than the previous entries. Number 92, Corporal Wilhelm Wicki. I actually liked this character from Inglourious Basterds a lot, but he's just not one of the major characters in the movie. I could have put more of the random characters from Death Proof or Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in this slot, but like I said, I'm trying not to be biased. Number 91, Big Daddy. Don Johnson's character in Django Unchained was delightful. You know, as far as slave owners go, I wanted to go out and purchase a white seersucker suit after watching the movie. Don Johnson just makes you want to wear a white suit, you know? But that was probably part of the joke. Number 90, Warren. I couldn't let Quentin get out of the bottom 10 unscathed, which is easy because he loves to do cameos in his movies, and Warren the bartender was a fine cameo. But I can't give him a pass just because it's his movie. Kurt Russell can still kill a bunch of women with his car with or without Warren the bartender. Number 89, Lee. Believe it or not, Death Proof is not my least favorite Tarantino movie. I actually think it was grossly underrated. But let's face it, Kurt Russell and Zoe Bell are the entire show, which brings me to Lee. Or better known as the cheerleader who gets left behind as collateral so the other girls can drive around in that redneck guy's car. Like Shanna Banana, very cute, but forgettable. Number 88, Francesca Capucci. What a babe. The scene in the airport with Leo was iconic. But what can I tell you? I've got to draw the line somewhere. There are 9 movies and at least a dozen characters in each one. Ciao, mi amor. Number 87, Maynard. I had to go way down the list on IMDb before I could even remember this guy's name. But hey, he's in Pulp Fiction. And there's not a single character in Pulp Fiction that isn't memorable. But in case you don't remember, he's the dude with the shotgun in the pawn shop who captures Marsellus Wallace and Bruce Willis. Sorry, I forgot Bruce Willis's character's name. Number 86, the Gimp. Admit it. You remember the Gimp before you even remembered there was a guy with a shotgun who dragged them into the basement, right? Number 85, Bruce Lee. It was a hilarious scene. I remember when the movie came out. Social media was attacking Tarantino for being racist against Asians or something. I don't know if Bruce Willis was really the arrogant sissy his Once Upon a Time in Hollywood alter ego was. But as far as cameos that aren't really cameos go, it was one of the more memorable ones. Number 84, Lara Lee Candie-Fitzwilly. Aside from the weird incesty greeting between her and Leo, there's not much there. She did make the dynamite scene possible, so I appreciate that, and Django's balls also appreciate it. Number 83, Robert, aka Baghead. Since I brought up the dynamite scene, it seems only fair to put Quentin's Django cameo character in the next spot on the list. He had even less to do with the story than Lara Lee, but not every director is willing to blow himself up on camera. That's gotta count for something. Number 82, Sofie Fatale. I felt at this point I had to pick a Kill Bill character, and Sofie Fatale was the least remarkable character. The only reason we remember her is not because of what she did, but what was done to her at the end of Part 1. It was particularly nasty, even by Tarantino standards. Number 81, Beaumont Livingston. I actually didn't want to put Chris Tucker so low on this list. I love the Rush Hour movies and didn't see Jackie Brown for the first time until 15 years after its debut, which was also around the same time as Rush Hour, which is why I bring it up. I'm just saying that Chris Tucker was having a really good run in the late 90s. I think that's also when he was on Epstein's plane. I found a way to bring up Epstein even in this video. Number 80, Jungle Julia. She's hot, and she knows it. Maybe I'm just an insecure nerd, but it bothers me. And it apparently bothers Kurt Russell too, so that's why she's not making it into the 70s on this list. She'd like that too much. Number 79, Bob. A quiet Mexican guy from The Hateful Eight. We all know that The Hateful Eight wasn't a big flashy Marvel superhero movie. It was basically a theater production in a cabin. So when I say he was the least memorable of the 8, you know my opinion is based on thorough research. Number 78, Omar Ulmer, played by Omar Doom. If you're just gonna go by your first real name in a movie anyway, why wouldn't you use your real last name of Doom to kill Nazis? Anyway, him pretending to be Italian was a classic scene, but not nearly as classic as turning the Führer's face into German Swiss cheese. Number 77, Randy Miller. The only reason he made it this far was because he's Kurt Russell. He played the stunt coordinator that got Brad Pitt the role in the movie with Bruce Lee, only to have his wife played by Zoe Bell throw Cliff out for doing some body work on one of the cars. It's also worth mentioning that Randy was the first character to clue us in about Cliff's dark past, and he was also the narrator. He wore a lot of hats. Maybe I'm wrong about this one. Number 76, Marvin Schwarz. Did I mention how many characters there were in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? So many that I have to put freaking Al Pacino at number 76. He did a great job, but all he did was play a stereotypical Hollywood agent. This role wasn't exactly Son of a Woman.
You know, Son of a Woman. Hoo-ah! Hoo-ah!
Number 75, Pussycat. What? Another Once Upon a Time character? Do you hate this movie or something? No, it's actually one of my favorites. But while Pussycat's scene in the car with Brad Pitt confirms that he is not as much of a lowlife as many other of the characters claimed him to be, and this ride and the subsequent drop-off were critical to setting up the final scene between Tex and Squeaky, that only puts her at the top of a list of third-tier characters. Number 74, Mr. Brown. Another Quentin cameo bites the dust. It's undeniable that his scene in the diner and his analysis of Madonna's Like a Virgin were quintessentially Tarantino, but this is the only time he appears in Reservoir Dogs. Like Mr. Blue, he also meets his maker during the jewelry heist, but at least we had a good laugh about his gripes about getting named the same color as Poo Poo. Numbers 73 and 72, Lance and Jody. I know I'm cheating a little to essentially rank these two together, and you can come to your own conclusion about who is 73 and who is 72, but they are a package deal. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have had a few more precious moments of Uma Thurman in the movie. If only they were in the bathroom at Butch's house to save him from his own stupidity again. Number 71, General Sandy Smithers. If Bob the Mexican was the quietest of the Hateful Eight, then General Sandy Smithers, played by Bruce Dern, was the second quietest. Even in his most memorable scene, the one where Samuel L. Jackson's character shares the salacious details of meeting the General's son, it was Major Marquis Warren who did all the talking, until his pistol did. Number 70, Joe Gage. As you can see, we've entered into the Hateful Eight portion of our countdown. I have a confession to make. Michael Madsen may be my favorite Tarantino recurring actor. As you'd expect, his other more notable characters, Mr. Blonde and Bud, won't show up on this list for some time. And I almost forgot that he was one of the actors in Bounty Law on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which didn't even make the cut for this list. Getting back to Joe Gage, aka Grouch Douglas, a brooding presence which Madsen excels at can get you far, especially in a movie like The Hateful Eight. There are just too many other characters across the Tarantino universe who do more than look sinister. Number 69, Ray Nicolette. Considering Michael Keaton's cop partner in Jackie Brown is number 96 on this list, he should take this as a compliment. What can I say? Jackie Brown was really an example of the sum being greater than its parts. There's just not that many memorable characters when you compare them to the iconic titans of popular culture that were his first two films. Maybe if Michael Keaton was interrogating Jackie as Batman, I would have remembered his performance more. Number 68, Kim. Don't get me wrong, Kim, or better known as the driver in The Chase in Death Proof, was great. But we're already getting to a point where good characters in lesser-known movies are going to have to start dropping off. But hey, at least she didn't let Zoe Bell drop off the hood of that car. Number 67, Leonide Moguy, Monsieur Candy's personal attorney, or as Christoph Waltz might say, a persnickety lawyer. Let's face it, contract attorneys don't get a lot of love for many reasons, but in a cast of gunfighters, mandingos, slayers, and other scary people, the threat of legal action is just not that memorable. Number 66, Private First Class, Smithson Utivich. Come on, if Utivich didn't appear alongside Brad Pitt in most of his scenes, would you remember him either? But being Aldo Rain's sidekick will at least keep you out of the bottom third of this list. Number 65, Holdaway. Holdaway was the detective that helped get Mr. Orange, aka Freddie Neuendijk, ready to go undercover for Joe's diamond heist. I have absolutely no complaints about how Randy Brooks played him. He was calm, cool, witty, and street smart. And really, my favorite scene with Tim Roth were the ones they played together. He did a lot with less than 5 minutes of screen time. Maybe if it had been 10, Orange would still be with us. Number 64, Zed, the final member of the sadistic basement club from Pulp Fiction. The only reason he made it so much higher on this list than Maynard and the Gimp was Bruce Willis's memorable line, "Zed is dead," when asked whose motorcycle he and Fabian were driving away on. And of course, for what Marsellus did to him in said basement. Ugh. Number 63, Abernathy. Rosario Dawson's character in Death Proof. That's the whole reason she sneaked past her compatriots Kim and Lee to make it this far up the list. It's not because her character is that much more memorable. In fact, it might be less, even though she is billed just below Kurt Russell and Zoe Bell on the IMDb page. If I were to guess, it might have something to do with a good referral from Robert Rodriguez. Number 62, Jimmy. This will be the highest ranked character played by the man himself, Quentin Tarantino, on this list. This character undeniably had the funniest, memorable, and some may say most controversial lines of all his cameo appearances. If you don't remember the context, Jules and Vincent drove to Jimmy's house because Vincent accidentally shot Marvin, their inside guy during the briefcase theft scene, in the face. They needed to get off the road to clean the blood-splattered car and hide the body, and unfortunately for Jimmy, he was the only person Jules knew in the area. The entire sequence is referred to as the Bonnie situation, named after Jimmy's wife and his fear that she would come home to see what was happening. It's clear that despite Jimmy's domesticated appearance, he is also a criminal, since he's notably not bothered by the dead body, only that his wife will find out about the, quote, gangster shit taking place in their house. But hey, at least he makes good coffee. Number 61, Tex, the foreman of the Spahn Ranch and would-be serial killer in Tarantino's alternative universe. Like many other characters on this list, he's not so much memorable because he did anything, but more what was done to him. I could have easily put Cliff's dog in this spot if we wanted to get technical, and if we really want to get technical, I don't think we'll have to worry about any Tex Juniors avenging their father in the future. Ouch. Number 60, Squeaky Fromme. Unlike Tex, who is actually a murderer in real life, and was also portrayed as one in the movie, the real Squeaky didn't actually attempt to murder anyone. Well, at least in connection with the Tate murder. She did try to murder Gerald Ford, but since Tarantino didn't do that biopic yet, I'm really getting sidetracked. Anyway, Dakota Fanning did an excellent job at making me feel uncomfortable, especially in the cabin scene at the Spahn Ranch. Seriously, is she ever going to get rid of that mousetrap? Number 59, Arlene. Aside from Kurt Russell and Zoe Bell, this is the last of the death-proof characters on this list. So I guess, pound for pound, that movie had the fewest number of memorable characters as far as I'm concerned. But Arlene was not one of them. So what makes her so memorable? Well, without being too simplistic about it, the lap dance scene. Aside from the final car chase, I would argue that it was the most memorable scene in the entire movie. You know, just good clean fun. Number 58, General Ed Fenech. If this list were based off of my personal favorite performances rather than trying to objectively determine which characters are the most memorable, Mike Myers' cameo wouldn't be anywhere near the bottom half. What can I say? As a lifelong fan of Austin Powers, it's always a thrill to see him play a quirky British character. But other than setting up the context for Operation Kino, he doesn't serve much more of a purpose than that, baby. Number 57, Melanie. I'll be honest, I kinda surprised myself that Bridget Fonda's character made it so high on this list. And this isn't a knock on her acting, more of a statement on how Jackie Brown was definitely the most understated in Tarantino's catalog. And of all the main characters in this movie, Melanie might be the most understated of them. But just the fact that I'm referring to her as a main character tells you everything you need to know about Jackie Brown. It was a very small cast, so it's kind of impossible not to remember her unless you just forgot the entire movie, which many fans tend to do. Number 56, Billy Crash. This may be the first time I ever saw Walter Goggins, who is now a super famous celebrity from all of his TV shows. Billy Crash was the main henchman of the Candyland plantation. Major kudos to casting director Victoria Thomas, who also casted Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. She nailed it with Walter Goggins in this role. He was so believable as this guy, you wondered if he would be stuck playing violent rednecks for the rest of his life, especially in conjunction with his first major role in The Shield. Fortunately for all of us, that's not what happened. Number 55, Jodie. Speaking of super famous Southern actors, Channing Tatum's brief but impactful performance in The Hateful Eight was one of the few times I was genuinely surprised by a Tarantino film. And not just surprised once, but twice. Fans are used to major characters getting unceremoniously removed, to put it nicely, but the build-up of finally having Jodie come up from the basement just to have him get gunned down just as quickly, that might have been the biggest surprise in all 9 Tarantino films. And I'm sure the ladies, if there are any female fans of The Hateful Eight, were disappointed in Tatum's lack of additional screen time. Number 54, Oswaldo Mobray. Tim Roth's bowler-wearing outlaw marked the first time since Pulp Fiction that the recurring actor came back to work with Tarantino. Roth's character, also known as English Pete Hicox, the Hangman, was certainly the most charming of the bandits hiding out in Minnie's haberdashery, despite the nature of his fake profession, or for that matter, his real profession. And for a Tarantino film, it is almost devoid of humor, a much-needed source of comic relief. Number 53, Marvin Nash. Have more well-known, arguably outright better actors appeared behind Kirkball's mangled cop character? Most definitely. But this isn't a list on best acting performances, or even most important characters. This is a list of most memorable characters. And there are few scenes, and possibly no other scene, that is as memorable as Mr. White singing Stuck in the Middle with You and using Marvin's severed ear as a microphone. Can you hear me now? Good. Number 52, Buck. We all remember Buck. And we all know what he is here to do. I was a freshman in high school when Kill Bill 1 came out. So Buck's signature catchphrase, and with it, his memorableness, probably has an oversized place on this list. But that's just the way it goes sometimes. Number 51 and 50, Pumpkin and Honey Bunny. Like most couples on this list, they're a package deal, and it really doesn't matter which order you put them in. There is no question that their iconic diner scene, followed immediately by the iconic twang of Dick Dale's Miserlou in the opening credits, set the benchmark for opening scenes henceforth. It was so memorable that you almost forgot they also bookended the movie as well. Well, we're at the halfway point, folks, so there's going to have to be some hard decisions to make from here on out. Number 49, Hattori Hanzo. I have a confession to make. I grew up watching anime, and for this reason, it's hard for me not to put Sonny Chiba's Master Swordsmith character higher up. The whole scene was like a live-action Rurouni Kenshin 20 years before there was a live-action Rurouni Kenshin. It was so great, but I have to be realistic about memorability. And I don't think most people think of Hattori Hanzo when they think about Tarantino characters. Number 48, Fabian. For whatever reason, everyone can't stand this character. I purposely tried to avoid reading Tarantino rankings prior to creating this list because I didn't want it to influence my opinion. But I remember when I was originally working on this poster a year ago, I vividly remember that the Redditors weren't a fan of Maria de Medeiros' character. They thought she was annoying. The first time I ever watched Pulp Fiction, I did think it was strange that a guy like Bruce Willis would be with a girl like Fabian. Maybe I'm shallow, but I think he could have done better. Even Esmeralda the cab driver would have been a step up. In any event, people remember they don't like Fabian, that's for sure. Number 47, Bruhmhilda VonShaft. Kerry Washington is a good actress and a beautiful woman, but her portrayal of Django's wife was weak. And maybe it was intentionally weak because her character was starved, beaten, and stuck in a hot metal underground pit. But like Roman Polanski from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I thought this character could have been more. Number 46, Fredrick Zoller. Yes, the fake Nazi version of Chris Kyle is number 46. I know he was an integral part of the plot of Inglourious Bastards, and he has the distinct disadvantage of having to be understood through subtitles, but I just didn't care for him. And I know that was the point of the character. Everyone kissed his ass, except for the one woman he's trying to impress. That's why you were so happy when Shosanna finally got him to shut up in the camera room. And then, for some unknown reason, got all sentimental afterwards. Pfft, women. But I'll get to her a little later. Number 45, Nice Guy Eddie. This is the only role I know Chris Penn for acting in, who I'm assuming is the brother of Sean Penn. I haven't bothered to spend the 5 seconds required to ask if that fact is true or whatever other acting roles he's done, because quite frankly it doesn't really matter, because this was a great character. He was so lovingly devoted to his dad until the bitter end. Even though I assume they were supposed to be Irish-American gangsters, he almost played it like he was a chubby blonde Italian. It was endearing. Number 44, Sharon Tate. I know this is probably going to be one of the most controversial choices on this entire list. I don't care that Margot Robbie is an A-list actress. I don't care that she is one of the top-billed characters in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. In terms of main characters, she was not a memorable character. Maybe Tarantino didn't feel like he could really make her his own because she wasn't fictional. She was real, and had a real history, unlike Rick Dalton and Cliff Booth. I think I read a few years ago that Tarantino wanted her to seem like she was floating in the background, an ethereal type of character. If that was his goal, mission accomplished. Number 43, Vernita Green. She was the first of Uma Thurman's former teammates that she dispatched. Also known as Copperhead in the Deadly Viper Assassin Squad, Vivica A. Fox did an excellent job. You could really feel her character's conflict and intensity, simultaneously a killer who's pretending to be a mother. Or maybe at this stage in her life it was the other way around, attempting to shield her daughter from the truth only for her to find out in the most intimate way imaginable. It was a heartbreaking scene, even if you wanted Black Mama to come out on top. Number 42. Hugo Stiglitz, the German traitor who is sprung from a holding cell after the bastards learn of his exploits killing his fellow Nazis. A truly complex character in theory, much like other strong silent characters I already reviewed, like Joe Gage from The Hateful Eight. His character development is left up to our imagination. He is undeniably cool, in a stoic sort of way, but a lot of his aura is crafted by Samuel L. Jackson's narration in the juxtaposition of the more flamboyant characters that surround him, rather than anything he actually said or did. Number 41, Bridget Von Hammersmark. 2 from Inglourious Bastards in a row? I know. Maybe I'm just getting lazy at this point. But Bridget Von Hammersmark has to go somewhere. Diana Kruger's character was tough, yet feminine, funny, yet dramatic, a totally three-dimensional character. What's not to like? Whether it's fair to say or not, she's just too normal. The remaining female characters on this list are undeniably quirkier than a pretty German double agent whose cover is being bad at skiing. Number 40, Sheriff Chris Mannix, Walter Goggins' other Tarantino character, the would-be Sheriff of Red Rock from The Hateful Eight. Like I said, it's a very good thing that the real actor didn't get typecasted by his roles. After all, it seems plausible that somewhere in Tarantino's mind, he may have seen this as a chronological sequel to Django. It was not only his next film, released just 3 years later, but the story also takes place just years after the Civil War, while Django takes place in the antebellum period. Maybe if Billy Crash didn't very clearly get killed by Django, we could believe that he traveled west in search of new opportunities, like so many former Confederate gunslingers did. Opportunities like a sheriff post in a snowy outpost in remote Wyoming. Like I said, I didn't read the fan forums before making this video. Is this actually a theory other people have? Let me know in the comments. Number 39, Captain Coons. Christopher Walken's monologue about Butch's dad's watch is probably the greatest cameo, if you can even call it that, in Tarantino's filmography. His deadpan delivery, perfectly Christopher Walken. Because, why else would you cast Christopher Walken, especially for a 5-minute part, if you didn't want him to just be him? Little did he know what trouble that watch would cause him in 30 years. Well, at least Bruce Willis didn't have to hide it like Captain Coons. Amazing, he avoided getting a proctology exam twice in one movie. Number 38, Louis Gara, or is it Guerra? I wasn't sure where I was going to put Bobby D on this list, but being him can only get him so far, especially when he played such a loathsome brute. I don't know the first thing about psychology, but if I were to guess, this guy had a major case of bipolar disorder. Most of the time, he seemed straight up comatose. The most boring character in a, well, I don't want to say boring, but like I said earlier, a fairly understated Tarantino movie. But when De Niro did bring out the manic part of the personality, it was hard to forget about it. Number 37, Lieutenant Archie Hicox. Like another very famous actor on this list, this was the first time I ever saw Michael Fassbender in a movie. And boy, did he play a good English soldier playing a Nazi. To this day, my wife and I still bring out blank note cards for a round of Who Am I whenever guests come over. Fortunately for us, I remember to use my thumb when asking her to grab another beer stifle from the fridge. Damn good stuff. Number 36, Gogo Yubari. Man, this is really getting tough now, and I still have over 30 characters to choose from. I know I said that Hattori Hanzo's scene was basically a live-action anime, but it pales in comparison to the flail-wielding schoolgirl. Tarantino certainly did his homework. Every single moment in the House of Blue Leaves, or if you haven't been doing your homework, that's the name of the restaurant that the bride took down the crazy 88 gang. Every single moment in that fight sequence was the greatest moment of any movie I had ever watched. And then Gogo Yubari comes out, and somehow cranked the amp up to 11. Woo-hoo, woo-hoo. Number 35, Pai Mei. Another mythical, surreal character, and really the only one in the sequel. Unlike anime, I had no exposure to Kung Fu as a kid, so I have no idea how accurately Tarantino nailed this genre. Even without the added context, Pai Mei is one of the highlights of the second Kill Bill. I don't know if this was intentional or not, but the really bad wig and fake eyebrows made Gordon Liu's very respectable performance a surprising source of comedic relief. Even the way he died. Tragic, yes. Kinda funny? Also yes. Number 34, Joe Cabot. Yes, he does totally look like the Thing from the Fantastic Four. Lawrence Tierney managed to somehow steal every single scene he was in, even though he was surrounded by other good actors. Is it his age, his voice, his role as the boss? Yes to all three. But more than that, for many of us under a certain age, we didn't have any baggage to carry over from his earlier acting career. You really could believe this guy was an actual crime boss, not just a good actor. Seriously, the only thing I had ever seen him in before that was,
Master of the house, ready with a handshake and an open arm.
Number 33, John Ruth. Here we go, the first leading character to hit the list. I really debated whether I should go through the rest of the filmography's secondary characters before beating up on Kurt Russell's bounty hunter, but he's just not that iconic of a Tarantino character no matter where he is on the marquee. It really just felt like John Ruth wasn't really John Ruth, but Kurt Russell with mutton chops, overacting in an uncomfortable community theater production of Little House on the Prairie. Wow, Doug, you were so complimentary about him earlier in this list. Yes, I was. And I still haven't put Stuntman Mike on the list yet. Number 32, O-Ren Ishii. The queen of the Tokyo underworld could have been an iconic Tarantino character. The truth is that so much of Lucy Liu's job was done for her in the animation sequence explaining her dark and twisted backstory. By the time we got to see her in real life, there's no way that she could live up to her anime doppelganger. If you're holding up a decapitated head and still can't convey any emotion in your performance, it's time to say sayonara. Number 31, Shosanna Dreyfus. Speaking of cold, mannequin-like performances, here's Shosanna. I'll give her some leeway on her character's aloofness. She is French after all. But cultural differences in subtitles can only be blamed for so much. Melanie Laurent probably is a great actress if you watch her in French cinema, but in a Tarantino movie, she had all the charisma of a 2-day-old baguette. Number 30, Sergeant Donny Donowitz. Quite frankly, I wish Eli Roth was in this movie for 2 minutes. Any other scene he was in almost took away from the one scene that mattered. That scene. Banging on the cave walls, only to emerge, baseball bat in hand, Nazi medal strewn around his neck, and asks, "Did you get that for killing Jews?" I'm not Jewish, but if I was, I would want nothing more than to have been that guy. As a goy, I still got chills of satisfaction. He knocked it out of the park. Number 29, Winston Wolf. Of all the supporting characters, I was saving him for last. And if I thought I could justify it, I would have thrown a few more lackluster leads under the bus first. Minute for minute, there isn't a more memorable character on this list. I'm sure a lot of people have requested a spin-off movie for a Quentin Tarantino character before, but this one is a no-brainer. He's like James Bond, but a James Bond you could grab a gourmet cup of coffee with before dropping off a corpse at the car compactor. Number 28, Zoe Bell. That's not a typo. This is the only time I'm actually referring to the actor's name as the character's name as well, because Zoe Bell played herself in Death Proof. A badass stunt woman with a delightful accent. I think Tarantino was so enamored by that New Zealand accent. Have you ever watched Tarantino in an interview after this movie? He says mate a lot. Like, what's the deal with that? Anyway, Zoe Bell is awesome, and the fact that she really did that car thing in the movie, I mean, come on. Number 27, Major Marquis Warren. That's right. The highest ranked character of the Hateful Eight cast is not going to be Kurt Russell or Samuel L. Jackson's character. Can you figure out who it is by the process of elimination? Or lack of a Y chromosome? I mean, the part about the Lincoln letter being fake was pretty hilarious. Peak Tarantino. Kinda reminded me of when Aldo Raine shot Hans Landa's friend at the very end of Inglourious Basterds just for fun. Just letting you know that there are no sacred cows in this universe. Everyone can have their head or privates blown off just to throw the audience off guard one last time. And still, none of that was what I remembered most about Major Marquis Warren. Hint, it's the story about General Sandy Smithers' son, which was somehow the most uncomfortable I have ever been watching a Tarantino movie. Number 26, Ordell Robbie. Yes, it's a double feature of the less memorable Samuel L. Jackson performances. Don't worry, he still ranks pretty dang high on average. After all, no other actor has appeared in as many Tarantino films. That's why I can be picky, because I know what he can do. Did I mention yet that Jackie Brown was Quentin's most understated film? Well, this was certainly Samuel L.'s most understated performance, if you don't count Rufus from Kill Bill, which I'm not. And when I say understated, it wasn't that understated. He did the absolute best he could do with the role. But compared to his last role in the Tarantino movie a few years prior, it was understated, and a little less iconic. Number 25, Marsellus Wallace. It's hard to believe, but Marsellus Wallace was only on screen for a little over 10 minutes. It's hard to believe because so much of Pulp Fiction's multiple storylines revolve around him. In fact, he only is visible in 2 scenes. The one where he gets ran over by a car, and the other one, down in the basement. Was I the only one who got a warm, fuzzy feeling when Butch rescued him, and in return Marcellus agreed not to have him murdered for not throwing the fight? It was a real after-school special style lesson in forgiveness. If after-school specials had a rape dungeon and a gimp. Number 24, L. Driver, aka California Mountain Snake. Daryl Hannah's cycloptic villain was definitely more iconic than either of the aforementioned deadly vipers further down this list. Her most memorable scenes were her first and last. The first being at the beginning of Kill Bill 1, dressed as a nurse. Honestly, the red patch eye cross was iconic, but even a little kitschy for Tarantino. And the second scene being the one she needed a second eye patch for. Dying blind in a filthy trailer. Even for Tarantino, that is a particularly cruel end. Number 23, Daisy Domergue. Congratulations, Jennifer Jason Leigh. You win the prize for Best Performance in The Hateful Eight. Not a high bar, but she actually did deliver a killer performance. She was just so gross and, well, hateable. So that makes her the queen of mean. But ultimately, The Hateful Eight, while a very captivating film, probably ranks second to last on average for generating memorable Tarantino characters. Fill in the blanks for what you think is last place on this list. Number 22, Max Cherry. I've held off on Robert Forster's bail bondsman for as long as could be logically done on a list of memorable characters. If I can be real for a moment, his character is probably way less memorable than 22nd place. But damn, if he didn't carry Jackie Brown. You never wanted a love story to work out so much. The hope of seeing him drive off with Pam Grier into the sunset. But the life of a bail bondsman is a solitary life. As Bobby Womack would say, you can find it all in the streets. Number 21, Steven. There's only one more Samuel L. Jackson character I have to review after this, and you all know who it is. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't take the time now to pay Steven our respects. For a character that could have been an utter racial caricature, Samuel L. made it more. Somehow he managed to be both the comic relief and the true antagonist of the entire movie. There's not that many characters on this list that can claim both of those titles. Number 20, Bud, the final member of the Deadly Viper Assassins. But not Michael Madsen's final appearance on this list. We're all rooting for the bride to get her revenge, but for some reason, I was hoping she would figure out a way to make a deal with the old Sidewinder. Maybe trade him a 9-iron for one of his swords and call the whole thing a mulligan? But it wouldn't be called Kill Bill if Uma Thurman didn't kill some bastards, would it? Number 19, Jackie Brown. There's only one Tarantino movie named after a single character, because Kill Bill and Django Unchained are verbs more than a noun. And it's Jackie Brown. And I know I said Robert Forster as Max Cherry carried the movie, he was spectacular, but Jackie Brown is probably the least ensemble-driven film in the filmography. The film is all about her, and she makes you root for her. She's just so pensive, She says so much without saying much at all. She is the perfect anti-hero to end Tarantino's Los Angeles-centric heist movie introductory trilogy, even if that's not what he meant to do. Number 18, Stuntman Mike. It was a toss-up between Jackie Brown and Stuntman Mike, but I ultimately went with the latter because, well, he's just way more of a Tarantino-esque character. And of all the movies in the filmography, this is arguably the only one you can watch while scrolling IMDb on your phone and not miss a beat. This might be a hot take, but if you're going to introduce someone to Tarantino movies who might not like Tarantino, I think Death Proof is the easiest ask. Number 17, Mr. Orange. Tim Roth's first Tarantino role was also his most memorable, an undercover cop who gets shot in the gut. And he definitely had plenty of guts. He laid out all his acting chops on the ramp of that warehouse, and did it in a perfect American accent, no less. And the final twist? It revealed a Mr. White at the end. You almost wonder if Larry David had been a co-writer on the film. Number 16, Mr. White. As good as Mr. Orange was, Harvey Keitel was clearly the lead actor in this film. A crook with a heart of gold. In the end, it was his fatal flaw. When everyone else can see what he cannot, or will not, it makes him maybe one of the most tragic heroes in the Tarantino universe. It really seemed like he was going to be Quentin's muse from that point on. You could easily see him playing a role in every subsequent film. Was he the original choice to play Vincent Vega? Maybe. I don't really know. Asking for a friend. Number 15, Butch. As good as Tarantino's casting has been through the 9 movies, Bruce Willis as Butch may have been the best choice of them all. I don't know if he'd take this the wrong way, but he was just so believable as a washed-up boxer who has second thoughts about throwing a fight. All 3 storylines could have been their own movies, but Butch's storyline really was the one that could have stood alone. We all knew that Pulp Fiction had some of the most quoted dialogue of any Tarantino movie. Maybe any movie, period. But the scene in the basement where Butch frees himself and looks back at the door where Marsellus Wallace is being, let's say victimized, the guy who just tried to kill him personally and via proxy. Butch says nothing. He just does a double take. That moment was the greatest unspoken moment in Tarantino's catalog. You really wonder how Bruce Willis didn't do another one of his films. Number 14, Django. Believe it or not, Django was the first Tarantino movie I saw in theaters. The first of his films I probably saw was Kill Bill. As weird as it sounds, I didn't watch Kill Bill because it was a Tarantino film. Kill Bill was so mainstream, I didn't even know who Tarantino was when I watched it. It was just the thing to watch, especially in high school. I bring this up because Django was the first time I watched a Tarantino movie as a Tarantino fan. By 2012, I had watched all of his movies, so I knew what to expect, or at least I thought I did. When I first found out that Jamie Foxx is going to be a cowboy in the antebellum South, I was genuinely confused. Why not someone more like Denzel? That would make more sense, right? I don't know why I didn't think he was right for the role, but then I saw him. Based on pure rewatchability, I think Django is my top Tarantino film, and it's Jamie Foxx's film. Sure, Christopher Waltz and Leo were probably more entertaining, but it's called Django Unchained, and he was in every scene. No wonder he was out of breath for most of the film. Number 13, Rick Dalton. Leo was only in 2 Tarantino films, but that's all he needed. Who better to personify what Hollywood was than the most accomplished actor of his generation? I didn't really feel like I was watching a different guy named Rick Dalton. I felt like I was watching the metaverse. That this was actually DiCaprio, but if he had traveled back in time and lived a life as an actor in a different era. Maybe I took some of the mushrooms that Cliff took before those goddamn hippies showed up to have that kind of thought. But what I'm trying to say was that Leo is so much that guy that even him, who has been a million wildly different characters, I think it will be hard for me not to see him as Rick Dalton moving forward. Number 12, Cliff Booth. If Jackie Brown was the film that was the least reliant on having an ensemble cast, then Once Upon a Time was the absolute opposite. It was like Tarantino did freaking Ocean's 11. And who else was in Ocean's 11? Playing second fiddle to the lead guy, before we all realized that actually, Brad Pitt is the lead guy. The movie is Cliff Booth's movie. I don't care how many more lines Leo had. I don't care how many more A-listers Tarantino crammed into this movie to entice people to get off their couches and drive to the movie theater in 2019. I couldn't have cared less about most of them. I mean, go back and look at the bottom half of my list. It's littered with them. Without Cliff Booth, this movie wouldn't have been a Tarantino film. It would have been Don't Look Up, or something like that. Number 11, Dr. King Schultz. Before Christopher Waltz uttered one word in his much-anticipated second Tarantino film, we were already drawn in. The absurd sight gag of that horse-drawn carriage with the oversized molar on a spring, a relic from his hurried backstory, a very different entrance than Hans Landa's in Inglourious Bastards. Still as oddly charming and cunning as his portrayal of an SS officer, but this time the audience had the added bonus of being able to root for him to succeed. This time he was the voice of moral clarity in a world surrounded by barbarism. Which is funny to say, because it's not like he was a saint in this movie either. He was still a bounty hunter who ran a cash for corpses business. Was Dr. King Schultz really more memorable than the title character? If you base your assessment on quality over quantity of airtime, then that's a bingo. Sorry, wrong character. Number 10, Calvin Candie. So everything I just said about quality over quantity of airtime, that is definitely true for Leonardo's first and most memorable Tarantino role. Considering we don't even get introduced to the faux francophone until over an hour into the movie, he does a lot with a little. Much like my skepticism on the casting of Jamie Foxx to play a black cowboy in 1858 Mississippi, I had a similar reaction with Leo as a plantation owner. We all know he can morph into any role he sets his mind to, but he is rarely a villain. Actually, I can't think of a time when he was a villain aside from this movie. And even then, he was a pretty damn charming slave master. Just like Christopher Waltz's Hans Landa, it's pretty hard for Leo to be unlikable as any character. Number 9, Bill. David Carradine's eponymous antagonist in the two Kill Bill movies. Like Marsellus Wallace, he isn't on screen much, but everything is about him, indirectly or not. He's a total man of mystery up until the very end, and even then, you never really feel like you knew him. Kinda like the white guy in your dorm who studied abroad and got into Eastern mysticism, but unlike him, he actually did it in a way that's not pretentious or douchey. But what would you expect from the guy from Kung Fu? Of all the nods to Tarantino's fanboy past, David Carradine's character was the most fully formed expression of a childhood lived completely in front of the TV. Number 8, Mr. Pink. Steve Buscemi is a cult hero. There are a lot of reasons for that, but his role as Mr. Pink is probably the number one reason. I doubt many of us could relate to most of the characters in Reservoir Dogs, with the exception of Mr. Pink. At least I think we all hope that on our best day, we will be as sober-minded as Mr. Pink in the face of absurdity, and be the true hero of the film. The guy who knows everyone else is wrong, stands on the sidelines as they all kill each other, and gets the bag. Number 7, Mia Wallace. It seems impossible that Uma Thurman could have a more memorable character than Mia, but of course, we know she did. Despite that, she's the only actor whose characters are all featured in the top 10. Spoiler alert, I still haven't ranked The Bride. But first, let's give Mia her due. I'm not a Gen Xer, but I know a lot of them, especially artsy hipster types such as myself. And it makes you wonder what came first, women in the 90s that Tarantino used to make a Mia character, or Mia, making so many women of that generation become her. I mean, for God's sakes, even the freaking mom in the Santa Claus looks like her. Okay, fine. Even though Pulp Fiction came out 6 months before that movie, it's probably a total coincidence. I'm just saying, I don't remember a lot of dudes walking around in bolo ties and ponytails when I was a kid. I knew a lot of Mias picking my friends up from school at that time. I would argue that no Tarantino character affected the way people looked and talked more than Mia Wallace. Number 6, Hans Landa. Moving on to number 6, I guess it's fortunate that Hans Landa wasn't the character most emulated by the public. But that doesn't make him any less memorable. Only Tarantino could take an obscure foreign actor, well, obscure in the English-speaking world. He was a regular German Gene Hackman considering how many things he'd done before Inglourious Basterds. Anyway, Tarantino's dialogue and Waltz's delivery were a perfect storm. It also probably helped elevate his character in the minds of us lazy Americans who can only speak English that he spoke a lot of English in the film, where that wasn't a guarantee. How do people watch foreign films with subtitles in 2026? It really distracts from looking at your phone when you have to read things on the TV, too. Number 5. Aldo Raine. Of all the bastards in Inglourious Basterds, he was the most glorious. And just like Jamie Foxx and Leo in Django, who would have thought to cast Brad Pitt in this role? I'll be honest, this was the first time I liked Brad Pitt in a movie. I just didn't grow up with him like that. But getting back to the character, seriously, who has more memorable one-liners than Aldo Raine? And I'm not just talking about this movie specifically. Again, I don't want to sound like an uncultured rube, but since half the movie was in another language, or at least it felt like it was half, it just made Brad Pitt's Missouri twang that much more memorable. Well, I take it back. Aldo was from Tennessee. Close enough. But with my ears for accents, I probably would have thought that he was from Italy too. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that he was about as memorable as a guy with a swastika carved into his forehead, which is pretty memorable. Number 4, Mr. Blonde. I'm not sure if this is controversial or not, but where else was I realistically going to put Mr. Blonde? He was the most enigmatic and captivating character in Reservoir Dogs. You could argue that the interplay between white and orange was far more central to the movie, or that Steve Buscemi delivered the most memorable quotes, but with most Tarantino films, it's hard to point to one scene and say that that was the scene in the movie. We all know which one I'm talking about. Reservoir Dogs would still probably be highly regarded without that scene, but would it had become the cult classic it became? Would Tarantino have had the same juice to do Pulp Fiction in the same way? It's not an accident that Michael Madsen was one of the most featured recurring actors throughout Tarantino's filmography. He probably thinks of him like a Lucky Charm, like a rabbit's foot, or maybe a cop's ear. Number 3, Jules. Samuel L. Jackson has so many great lines in this movie. He literally quoted Bible verses and made them synonymous with his character. Who else can say that? He is the yin to Vincent's yang, and then sometimes vice versa. And even though Jules didn't have as much screen time as Vincent, he arguably was the focal point of every scene he was in. He could be the baddest MFer in the room, or cool as a cucumber without a moment's notice. It's no surprise that he got cast in a movie called The Negotiator a few years after his final scene in Pulp Fiction. Maybe it's even possible that George Lucas watched this movie and thought to himself, now there's a guy who could be Mace Windu. This one role simultaneously turned him into an A-lister and a cult movie hero all at the same time. Number 2, Vincent. At 83 minutes of total on-screen performance, John Travolta's dramatic comeback is far from another throwback celebrity cameo. He is the most iconic character in what is arguably Tarantino's most iconic film. And he doesn't just appear on camera to take up space, he helps create some of the most memorable scenes in cinematic history. From his banter about condiments in Amsterdam, to his rockabilly sock hop with Uma Thurman. In a movie of interwoven stories crisscrossing each other like lines of drugs on your dealer's coffee table, he is the shot of adrenaline to the chest that keeps you focused. Of all the very memorable characters in this very memorable movie, he may be the only character that cannot be replaced. Number 1, The Bride. If Vincent was the most iconic character in the most iconic film, she is Quentin Tarantino's most iconic character. Period. No qualifier. She is the star of not one, but 2 of his movies. Okay, even if it wasn't supposed to be split into 2 movies originally, she's on screen for a total of 248 minutes during the whole bloody affair. No other character comes close, because you can do a lot in over 4 hours. A lot of memorable lines.
I am gonna kill Bill.
A lot of memorable fights. lot of memorable, memories.
Freeze, Mommy.
Bang, bang! Oh!
By the end of it, you really feel like you know this character, and you love this character. You don't want the movie to end. What else can you ask from a fictitious movie character? If you made it this far, it's safe to assume that you really like Tarantino's work. So, this seems like a good time to remind you that the print of his 99 characters that I've been showing off this entire video is available on my Etsy shop. Check out the link in the description. Either way, thanks for watching, and if you aren't a subscriber, please consider being one. I'm planning on doing a lot more posters and a lot more ranking videos in the future. Videos like my 50 most influential guitarist poster, which you can check out on my YouTube page. Until next time.